Well, I'm here with Greg Barron from United Home Audio. Hi, Greg. How are you?
Hey, Peter.
It's a gorgeous deck. We've really enjoyed the review process on the Phase 11 deck. I sometimes call it Level 11, but it is officially the Phase 11 deck from United Home Audio. What makes this deck a Phase 11? What makes it so good? Why is it so realistic?
Well, this deck, like all of the UHA decks, start with the tape head. And you can kind of see the difference here between our United Home Audio HQ tape head and a stock tape head. This is a playback deck, PB deck, optimized particularly for playback stock recording. Even the decks, all of the PB decks record as well, but they record stock. Off the tape head, we're using a hyper pure cast silver, not an extruded wire. It is cast. Has double shielding, has a braided Teflon dielectric. The braiding of the Teflon seems to sound better than extruded Teflon.
Mm-hmm.
The great thing about the design of all the UHA decks is that there's just a very short signal path between the tape heads and the preamps. This particular deck is featuring our new G3 preamp that all of the United Home Audio decks will now have, from the least expensive right on up. But to answer your question, what makes this a Phase 11? Beyond the wire, it goes to the new G3 preamp. It is a dual mono preamp. We spared no cost in all of the pieces and parts. We took the time to voice each particular piece part, whether it's a resistor, whether it's a board, whether it's a capacitors, whatever the case was. We voiced each part specifically to give you the power that is available out of a 1/4 inch tape, surprising power. And in addition to that, it also gives out not just the power, but the subtle inner details that are present on a 1/4 inch tape. All of the UHA decks use the same transport, has servo tape tension control arms, very nice on the tape. You can go from rewind to fast forward without pressing stop. It takes care of all of the details, makes it very simple, and no muss, no fuss with tape handling. The idea was, with the Phase 11, to throw everything at the deck that we possibly could that was gonna give us exactly what we wanted, which was that power and that inner detail. So, in a nutshell, without giving away a lot of proprietary secrets, however, I can elaborate on just one small thing. Most of the time you have pots in the signal path, and obviously they degrade the signal. Long ago we bypassed the front control pots, but on every tape deck you've got a pot controlling the overall output. We bypassed that on the Phase 11 as well. The way we did that was working with the G3 preamp to get the output just very close to what we wanted coming out of the back of the deck, and then we resistively control that so that there is really no lesser quality components in the entire signal path, such as a pot, adjustment pot. So that's just one of the small things. We also use a lot of mu metal. You can see the tape head itself sits in its own little mu metal can to reduce noise at every point that we possibly could, and it, I think, gives a fair representation of the power and detail that 1/4 inch tapes are capable of.
Well, that's a good description of it. I'd like to also add in discussions with Greg that the decks have really come into their own over the past 12 months. You've been at this for a little over 5 years. But you even admitted to me this morning that last year it just everything came together with the deck itself and the technology, and that the end of the tail was explosive, and you hadn't heard it before either.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of the G3, the advent of the G3 preamp design, with all of the other, you know, ridiculous esoteric pieces and parts that we have sourced over the past, you know, 5.5 years. We took that, put it into the G3 preamp design, and that's when the magic really hit. I mean, obviously we've gotten a lot of awards for the tape decks. We have 8 awards right now. But this one was kind of a game changer. It took things to another level.
Well, as I put in my review, I totally agree with you, and it elevates audio to another level. And I'll say again, this isn't a tweaky, geeky audiophile product. This is high performance audio that you would get in a recording studio, or even better, and you can now do it yourself at home, and it's simply spectacular.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
But what about the software? Where do we get it today?
Well, there's a few different places where you can get it. As everybody probably knows, the Tape Project started the thing off by producing master tape copies at 15 inch per second IEC EQ 2-track 1/4 inch tape. And the Tape Project has 28 titles out, very nice stuff. Nice mix between jazz, classical, a couple of rock titles. So that's one thing. There is also our good buddy Jan Erik from Opus 3, and everybody, I'm sure, in the audiophile land has heard of Opus 3, and you can get the same format tapes as the Tape Project from Opus 3. The nice thing about the Opus 3 tapes are that they are exact copies, one-for-one copies of the original master tape. So in the grand scheme of things, you're essentially buying a safety master tape. Sounds great. He has some great titles. One of my favorite is Thomas Ornberg. They do really great New Orleans type jazz for some Swedes. They really rock out. It's pretty cool. There's also Master Tape Sound Lab out of Greece, and those were tapes that were recorded by Costa Mataskis years and years ago. And I was able to actually buy some of the original master tapes from Costas. One guy I really like, Martin Breeze, great jazz singer, nice recording. And then you also have Yarling Records. Yarling is, I think they have 4 tapes out right now, and he's continuing to record. So you can go to the Yarling website and see what his tape offerings are. Also we have Jonathan Horwich from International Phonograph Incorporated. And the great thing about what Jonathan is doing is he is purposefully recording on tape just to sell. In other words, no CDs, no LPs, just tapes. And so I think that's a great model for a small recording company coming up to differentiate them from the maddening crowd out there that are all issuing CDs and LPs and take your pick. This fellow is doing it specifically for reel-to-reel. So in the future, the opportunity to have quite a few tapes from him should come to pass. And I think also other studios, other recording companies that have, you know, music on master tape, hey, it's another line item revenue.
Well, I've suggested it to Pierre Spray, and there's a lot of people out there that do have this ability to do it, and I think they need to have the demand on the front end of it to pull it through. And so if a customer says, I'll pay hundreds of dollars because I want to have a safety master or a 3rd or 4th gen copy, and they hear it enough, they'll do it.
Well, I think that the thing to remember is that It's all a matter of getting as close as possible to the original, recording. And that's one thing that tape does. You don't digitize anything, you don't EQ it for the RIAA curve, you don't press vinyl, you don't do all of those things. You basically make a copy and you're pretty doggone close to the original recording. That's the big deal.